Hello everyone, today I'm doing something a little different again. I've been working with Zaccura this last week on a project called That Whisper from the Sea. We both painted two sides of a story of a message in a bottle traversing the ocean and going from one person to the other. Zaccura's painting is part one of this story and I recommend you watch that. The link is in the description below. As Zaccura is not only a very talented artist but a writer too, she wrote a great story to run alongside her illustration. So not to feel left out, I had a go-to. So here's the story I wrote behind today's illustration. I hope you enjoy it. Her name was Kailani, Hawaiian for the sea and the sky, and much like everything she saw and did, it was authentically and unendingly Hawaiian. She had lived on that island her entire life and her world was small. Same people, same surroundings. Considered a paradise but distinctly mundane, at least to her. Each night she snuck out of her bedroom and gently crept through her silent village to walk alone by the ocean. The air was crisp and cool here, all sound muffled by the waves cresting on the beach. She came here to stare out at the ocean. By this time the sea and the sky would merge into absolute darkness, but as she looked out at the pitch-black distance she didn't feel a fear of the unknown. Instead, she imagined countless possibilities. Cities teeming with masses of people, lights and music blasting from every direction. Or maybe a wall of rock reaching up above her, cutting into the clouds and beckoning her to climb and see what was up there. The darkness was a blank canvas for her. But that night something else caught her eye. Submerged in the sand, something stood reflecting the moonlight. As she approached she recognised it was glass and knelt down to unearth a bottle. A crisp piece of paper stood within and she clamoured excitedly to see what it said. His name was Timothy, and his voice spoke to her like a whisper from the sea. She considered his words. He wished for a connection, to find solace and comfort in the knowledge that someone unknown would think of him, even if just for a moment, and wished her the same. This boy across the ocean was isolated, and she considered whether he chose this route like herself, or whether he found himself there by chance or circumstance. Into the night she painted a story for him. She tried to imagine him surrounded by people who cared for him, in that city she had created before, but as she observed her scene she found them all to be faceless. As she thought back to her fantasies she realised the world she had created were populated by a sea of faceless people. Her eyes felt drawn back to the village behind her, and there she felt for a moment able to see through the very walls of their homes, and there she saw her family and friends sleeping contented. Letter still in hand, she turned her back to the ocean. Imagination may offer escape, but sometimes, she thought, it was important to ask what you're willing to turn your back on. Though I haven't heard the exact story that Zaccura has written just yet, I know her character Timothy was going along the route of a person lost in isolation, but who still cared deeply for other people. I wanted to parallel that a little with Kailani. It isn't that she doesn't really care for other people, but she, I think like most people, is a lot more selfish than that and can sometimes put the concepts of what she's hoping or her dreams above the reality of her actual situation, because she sees her reality as inherently worse than a fantasy. And that's because reality is infinitely worse for her than a fantasy, because her fantasies are that type that's atypically not very deep and doesn't really have any of the difficulties that reality has. I'm really looking forward to hearing and seeing Zaccura's video come together, so I hope you'll join me in watching part one of this story. Her videos are a great mix of analysis and understanding story and structure, alongside really good illustrations that evoke a lot of the emotions behind the narratives that she's talking about, so I definitely couldn't recommend her channel highly enough. I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts about this story and the two parts of the story, so leave a comment if you do have a chance. I really hope you enjoyed this video and see you again soon.